Children were never meant to be a distraction to our purpose, fulfilling our divine purpose. As a matter of fact, becoming a caregiver, a parent, is part of our divine calling. And I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what happened to you as a child. I don't know how hard it was to care for your children. I was raised by a single parent. And by me being the oldest, I saw a lot of things. There were times where I know my mother struggled to keep a roof over our head, to pay bills. And I too have experienced that. Oftentimes though, our children can be the means of wanting something better, of helping to give them a better life than we had. And one thing I know for sure is that every life has purpose, has meaning. Every life is a reflection of our Creator, that He chose for that person, that child, that young child, that infant, that seed to be here, to express it through abilities, gifts, singing, dancing, speaking, talents. And it is our Creator that knows the perfect time, the perfect place, that knows how long that life will be here, that presence to give us hope, to help provide determination, to help us embrace our determination, our spirit of determination, of self-control, of creativity. When we feel like things are not going as planned, and we seek the internal wisdom from our Creator to say, guide me, show me the way, because I know that you make no mistakes, that this child that I am taking care of, our children, are here for a reason. They are to help me to fulfill my divine calling. And part of that is being a mother. Part of that is being their spiritual guardian, being their guide, showing them what love looks like. As parents, as caregivers, we show them how people should treat you, how people should speak to you, how to look at life from a spiritual perspective, instead of allowing our emotions and our feelings to control us. Now, often we can compare and say, well, my parent wasn't like that, so why should I be like that? Because you are not your parent. Because as generations come, we are to evolve. We are to show more of our true selves than probably someone who did not. And it's not about feeling guilty. It's not berating that person. It's what can you learn from that person? Because no parent, if you will, is perfect. There are things that we can learn that will say, okay, I'll take that on to the next generation. I'll create my family based on some of these principles, these things that you taught. But there are some things that I won't take. And it's not because out of hatred, not supposed to be out of hatred or bitterness, but out of a desire to be our true selves. See, the world will tell you, be angry at your parents. It will tell you to get back at your parents. You will even feel like you have to get back at them. You have to treat others how you were treated. If your mother wasn't the mother that you wanted, then you see as all women not being like your mother. And therefore you go on to do things in a disrespectful manner. All of it stemming from the heart of often bitterness and resentment that your mother wasn't the mother that you wanted her to be. And spiritual perspective allows us to see that everyone has a choice. That your mother and mothers, we choose how to respond to our situations. That behind any ill will, frustration, resentment, is often pain. That we forget that even our parents experience some projected pain. That yes, they had to choose how to respond to that pain and may have not chosen the right way to do it, may have taken the pain out on you. But just because they made that choice, because they lived in that surrounding of resentment and bitterness, fighting to be themselves, realizing that they were not, but the pain, the anger, the frustration, they allowed it to overcome them. And so the question, every generation has to make a choice, has to decide, am I going to continue what was done to me? That I say, well, it was done to me, so what makes you better? Let it be done to you. Or do we decide that because of what we felt like, because of our emotions, because of our feelings, and allowing those to be our teachers to say, no one should ever experience this. And I have within my power to ensure that no one does. We look at generational curses. We look at, curses, what the world calls them, but generational patterns. And we see one generation doing the next thing in that generation and the next thing in that generation. And we are continuing the cycle of pain, the cycle of abuse, the cycle of trauma, the cycle of unhealed wounds. But at some point, someone has to break that cycle. Someone has to have the courage, the determination, has to have the insight and the wisdom, all of which we have inside of us, all of which we have access to this creator that created all things. Every child, young, old, was created by our Father. And within us is the ability to forgive, is the ability to see life and say that life is here because God wanted it here. And to know that if God chose you to be a parent, a caregiver, there is something in you that that God knew that you could do for that child. Some gift, some ability, some talent, some type of principle or standard, some gift that you have that life, his life, would benefit from. That relationships are supposed to be one that we learn from. That they're not going to be perfect in our eyes. That we develop, we create, we nourish understanding, patience, forgiveness, trust, communication. That we help see the gifts in our children. That I know that if I did not forgive what others projected, that they projected their pain on me, I could not be here for my children and to praise them about their art. Because I could have allowed their art, their artistic talent to be a trigger that would send me spiraling down. But instead, because of the decision to heal from the inside out, I see their talents, the gifts. I see God expressing itself through them. I want them to achieve their goal. I want them to achieve what God has placed in their heart. Because I know that not achieving our goals, not expressing our gifts, often lead to behaviors that stem from frustration and resentment. And behaviors that can end up causing someone to take from another, to forget who they are. When we are expressing our divine gifts and we're helping people to do the same, we are remembering the divinity within ourselves. When we are helping our children, when we learn from what we said and what we did not say, from what we did and did not do, it's not about feeling guilty. It's about an awareness, a spiritual awareness, a consciousness to realize what we did, to realize what not to do. And if you start seeing experiences in a spiritual way, the guilt, the frustration, the resentment, the grudge, all of that will dry away. It will release itself from you. But if you hold on to bitterness, to anger, that can become the distraction to fulfilling your divine purpose. There are too many children, adult children, that have lost their lives because of various reasons. And I do not doubt often it has to do with us seeing them as a distraction, not spending enough quality time with them. And them not feeling valued, them not understanding the divine presence within them. That I remember at my child's school here in Oregon, and I was talking to one of the assistant for lunch, and it came out that I said that I am not successful unless my child is successful. That I feel like that when you rise with your children. You do things to help them to remember who they are. You role model behavior. You say you're sorry. When you mean you're sorry, when you've done something that is unbecoming of you, you seek to listen to them, to bond, to develop that communication. You are there for them. You have an open door policy that no matter what is going on, you are there. You tell them that you're only for truth and that you want to be there for them, to side with them, but know that you side with truth, that we don't make excuses for our children. That my mom would say that every parent knows their child. We know when our children are not telling us the truth often. We know when they have done something that they should not have done, but it's not a time of condemnation because God does not condemn us. It's a time of understanding. It's a time of helping them to remember that they have a choice, that certain behaviors are not becoming of them, that we don't have to label our children as stupid, as dumb. We don't have to label that because honestly, if we are calling our children that, what are we calling their maker? How are we addressing the spirit that is within them? Because no child is dumb, no child is stupid. And again, it's not about condemnation. It's a realization, it's an awareness that every child deserves to live their life without the opposition of others, especially their parents, especially caregivers. And that's why it's so important for us to heal from our wounds, to not carry our pain into the generations, but to decide that nothing or no one will change me from who I am consistently. That I have a life that is worth fighting for. You have a life that's worth fighting for. And to realize that even our children have a life worth fighting for. Many adults, as I've cared 20 plus years in the healthcare industry as a practicing nurse, as an educator, I have seen adults experienced it, even myself, with childhood wounds. Often that's what's going on. Things that have been unaddressed, that have been pain, that have been nourished by attracting more of that type of pain because we have not healed. We're constantly thinking about it. And whatever we think about, wherever we're placing our energy, that's what we attract to us. As we know, wherever we're placing our energy, that's where energy flow. And the more we think about the bad things that happen, the more we attract it. A child that was abused attract a husband that is abusive. If we have not healed. We can also be placed in a relationship where the husband is not physically abusive, but maybe verbally abusive. That maybe we can be there to show them this is how it should be done. That, there's even a Bible verse when you think about it, that wives, you can save your husbands, and husbands, you can save your wives. That relationships are a spiritual communion act. And yes, we have to discern when it is time to stay and when it is time to go. But know that what I'm getting to is the family concept. There is a reason for it. There's a reason for our children, young. There's a reason for our spouses, our significant others. That all in all, it is an opportunity to express God, to express infinite intelligence, to express our Father, whatever you may call it. Remember, it's not about what you call it, but what you believe in. That our children need us. They're never too old. They're never too young. That people, our family children, they need to see the true presence of God in their lives, because they're seeing enough. They're seeing violence. They're hearing violence. And the home can be a place of serenity, an extension of our inner garden, where they feel safe, where they feel like they can express themselves, where they feel like they can receive insight and wisdom, where they feel like they're needed, where they feel like their life has meaning and purpose, because there are too many adult children that are out there trying to get it from the wrong people, or trying to force themselves on others, are feeling unworthy, are believing that they are an illness or disease, because at least it gives them some sense of meaning and purpose. That as parents, caregivers, we are to be an extension of our Creator. And it can be hard. It can be hard because you feel like, well, I can't do this, so because I have to be here. But God is about in the moment. And God is about, are you going to trust me? Because right now, your son needs you. Right now, your daughter needs you. Right now, your husband needs you. Are you going to trust me that I know your needs because I gave you the desires? Because your desires are my desires for your life. And sometimes we just need to do something. And it causes us to take our minds off ourselves and put it on other people. And to be that listening ear. To be the words that the person needs to hear. To be the channel for God. And so fulfilling our divine purpose is not always about us, but who can we bring up with us? And not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, morally. Who can we bring up? And sometimes it may be saying no for the moment to some situation and saying yes to our children. My mom would tell us, if you can't be there for family, who can you be there for? And she was speaking of the immediate family. Us, brothers, sisters. And that's the same thing that I tell my children. That is so important for not only you cultivate a relationship with God, but you cultivate a relationship with yourself. You cultivate a relationship with those you profess to love and care about, your family, and then with others. And we choose those boundaries, right? We're just because there's a time and a place for everything. And there's a cutoff point when there are some things that we are not ready for physically, mentally. We feel like we can't do it. And God doesn't want us to force ourselves. That we don't force ourselves on other people. There's going to be a time and a place where all things will be taken care of, whether on this earth or in another plane. But know that God gave you children, a child, for a reason. And that's because he saw you as someone who could instill or remind this child or gifts, talents, give them gifts and talents, help them to express their gifts and talents. So know that God makes no mistakes, that caring for a child is part of your divine purpose. And it's just a thought for this week that children are not meant to be a distraction, but they're actually part of our divine calling. And what I say is that it's a challenging opportunity, but it's one that will allow you to grow mentally, emotionally, spiritually, building tolerance and patience and trust, God faith. So may you have a great week. Mondays do not have to be a day of cardiac events. It can be a day of revelation, a day of spiritual unfolding, a day of trust, a day of favor. We choose how we want the days to be. We are not a statistic. This is the world way of looking at things. Let's try to unclog our heart and our brain so we can see how God sees. We can hear how God hears. We can speak the words that God speaks. We can love and have compassion, grace, and mercy as God have compassion, grace, and mercy. It is about forgiving others. For sometimes I believe that when we have forgotten who we are, when we're in the darkness, we don't realize often what we're doing. And I know it's easy to say, no, they knew exactly what they were doing. If you are truly reflecting God's image, then you won't have a desire to hurt others, to cause pain. But if you truly remember who you are, then you know who others are. And you know that you're here to help them, to edify them. So unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have forgotten who they are. We have our moments. I've had my moments. But it's the realization that we are beyond our experiences, that this divine calling on our lives is real, and that we choose, because we have free will, we must choose to honor our calling, taking care of the lives that have been entrusted to us, being there for them the best way that we know how, and forgiving ourselves when we haven't been there for them. Each day is an opportunity to align with the highest version of yourself. I'll talk to you soon. Take care of yourself. Make this lifetime great, because no matter what, you have within your power to do so.